हरिः ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta warmly welcomes you to session 19 of the series Gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation. That is a study of a few selected verses from the Gita based on Shankara Bhashyam. In the previous class on chapter 4, we studied verses 20 to 24. Here, Sri Krishna explained the crux of Gnana Karma Sannyasa, renunciation of the doership of action through knowledge. The Lord gave us the ideal of being Nitya Tripta and Nirashraya, experiencing fulfillment and freedom while still engaged in all worldly work. We also learned the most glorious verse, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, where Lord Krishna says everything, the action, the offering, the doer, to whom it is offered, and the result born out of this offering is Brahman. Today we will study the concluding verses of this chapter and also study the phalam gained by Gnana Karma Sannyasa, that is the benefits. I request Dr. Komal sir to introduce today's topic and take the session forward. Over to you, Komal sir.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadhashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. We are going further in chapter 4, where we are dealing with Jnana and Karma. We have seen that any human pursuit, and it's our common knowledge also, we have discussed this even earlier, are of two types. One is to do and one is to know. There's no third thing. If we can analyze all the human pursuits, it's either about doing or knowing. When we know the limitations of doing, then we think that thinking is the ultimate thing. That's why Descartes said that I think, therefore I am. When we cease to do something, still we exist. When we cease to think anything, when we stop thinking about anything in this world, even then, curiously, we exist. Against what Descartes had thought of, that the existence, my presence, my existence is because of my awareness and my thinking, falls short when we notice that in spite of stopping all the thinking, my presence, my existence, my awareness of my existence continues. Imagine traveling in a car like this you're seeing in the picture when it's raining. So we have in our visual system, there are ways in which our body, our visual system is fine-tuned to make sure that we focus on things which is moving. When a raindrop falls on the windshield, immediately our focus goes from the road to the windshield whenever there is some action. So the train drivers over time will realize that in spite of lot of drops falling on the windshield, they will be able to focus on the road. Much to your worry, if you are sitting beside them, they will resist the temptation to put the wiper on as long as they can, but still they will be concentrating on the road. The same analogy, if we can consider in life, in our path, in our journey of life, we will be bombarded by the rain of samsara on our windshield of life. Karma yoga is like the wipers which will clear off that difficulty in our vision or far vision, which we can consider, which Swamiji says, as well as Gita says, the next goal is knowledge. Every action, without exception, culminates in knowledge. Sarvam karmakhilam partha gnane parisamapyate. So he says, Jnana yajna is superior to other yajnas involving materials. Okay. So the purpose of the windshield being cleaned is not just to clean the windshield, it's for us to see through that to our actual path where we need to move further. So when we concentrate by our instinct more on that dancing raindrops on the windshield, we forget our focus, our attention, which should be much beyond the knowledge. So this is our path, the spiritual path, where we need to take ourselves further from what is obvious, what's the action surrounding us, what's the movement around us, the chaos, commotion, our perceived visions with goals in the realm of doing into what is further in the realm of knowing. That's the gnana. That's why here in the next verse, what we are going to discuss today, we'll be seeing this. That sarvam karma khilam partha gnane parisamapyate. Eventually, every action, without exception, will culminate in knowledge. How will you get that knowledge? So if you are sitting on the road only seeing your Google Maps and you are not aware of how is your destination, where is your destination, how you reach there, so you will go nowhere. You will be dependent on driver or somebody else. So in such situation, you will have to depend on somebody who knows the destination. To see my own eye, I can't have any instrument within my control. I need to rely on somebody to tell me my eye is itching. Can you just please look into my eyes and see if there's some dust fallen in the eye? So there is a limitation to what we can know, particularly when the topic is ourselves. The means of acquiring knowledge is next told by Krishna, where he says, Tadvidya pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. May you gain that knowledge by what? By prostration, service, proper inquiry, and the wise sages will impart that knowledge to you. The key ingredients, in other words, are the desire to know and the humility with which you approach the wise person who knows. Shrotriya Brahmanista. Okay, by prostration, by service, and by proper inquiry. So that's the next verse we are going to study today. Now, again, to extend that example which I gave you, so sit comfortably, maybe 2 feet from your screen if you're seeing a laptop, and you will be distracted, you will be immediately your attention will be taken to that circulating violet dots. If I tell you to concentrate only on the central square, that plus mark, that cross in the center, keep your attention there for a considerable length of time. As you're doing that, when your focus goes beyond the petty little things in life, the actions which are surrounding us, gradually you will notice that the violet colored dots gradually disappear. You'll start seeing a new greenish dot appearing. And if you concentrate further, the action of those balls moving around ceases and they totally disappear. There's nothing happening there, but you are just changing your focus from something which is moving, which is acting, which is which is distracting our attention, which is with force attracting towards its movement. to that which you are focused on, with a desire to see beyond that movement, that anchor which is holding, then the whole thing changes and you'll start seeing only that. But what we do generally, when we are bombarded with the raindrops on our windshield, we try to do whatever is possible within our limits by like rituals, putting something over the windshield, or checking in Google how to reach further, when the actual problem is the drops which is obscuring the vision, which the need there is that Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Ishvara Prasada Buddhi, that's the wiper which wipes off. Rest all is Karnatak. The rest all is something which is incidental. Mind you, like in vision, in the realm of seeing, so our vision is only limited. We can see only limited things around us. There is a vast sea of blindness, and there's only an island of vision, which we call field of vision. Similarly, when we are struck by a seatbelt in our car, our field of activity is limited between your seat, your controls in the hand, and up to the windshield. So we try to utilize with our limited capacity to do everything to have a perfect vision of what is beyond. We should understand the limitations of what actions can take us up to. Nothing beyond like this tying around. But the ultimate thing to see further, we have to remember, is that viper. That's the Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga will give you that vision further, that give you that opportunity to disregard the petty actions of life and take your focus beyond on the road where you need to actually see. That's when, like this Manas Sarovara, oh Arjuna, after gaining that knowledge, you'll not get into delusions in this manner once again. Once your mind is clear, not mind you, it's not because actions have stopped. The chaotic world is always around us, but you have learned that skill by your master, by a Shrotriya Brahmanista, to see beyond the small petty things, actions happening around. So once your mind is still, you can see what is there beyond, at the depth and much beyond. Like what you can see, this is actually Manasarovar, which is taken from far off. Beyond some 10-15 kilometers away, in the far off, you can see uh, Mount Kailash. That's the destination. That's the Gnana Yoga where you are leading to. Yajnatva na pudan mohameva yasyasi. Once you reach there, it's a point of no return. Unfortunately or fortunately, once you reach there, you will be unable to see the temporariness, transitory nature of the action around us. You'll have to just wipe it off your screen, and then the fire of knowledge brings you near and near to the jnana, and that fire of knowledge reduces all karmas to ashes to get into the ultimate jnana, the knowing, the awareness. Okay, so that is jnana karma sannyasa yoga. That's the crux, that's the point of this chapter, what we are learning today. And the next two verses are very often quoted verses as this Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham. There is no other purifier in this world like knowledge. Okay, so these are very commonly used terms, as you can see, as in the motto, the logo of University of Mysore. Most of the institutions, educational institutions particularly, will be taking particularly some logos, mottos taken from Bhagavad Gita, and particularly these two are the favorite ones, Nahi Jnanena Sadrisham, especially for educational institutions. And Shraddhavan Labhate Jnanam. So one who has faith attains knowledge. We'll be listening to this in detail much further as we go further. We should remember here that we are serious students of Gita and we have come up to the fourth chapter. It will be, this is not the time to again remind us that we need to have faith. Shraddhavan. Do we even discuss? Should we need to think about Shraddha at this moment? Because we have come this far already. It's like suppose somebody is having a severe headache and he is just rushing to a hospital. And if somebody, an interviewer stops him on the road and says, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question? Do you believe in this system of medicine you are getting into?" So it looks very ridiculous. When you have that immediate need and when your desire, that mumukshutvam is of that standard that you're rushing into with full faith to know, then that question of Shraddha is actually, it's a previous chapter over. We have Shraddha and that's why we are here today. But here Sri Krishna knows he is an expert psychological analyst, and the audience here for Krishna is Arjuna. And he perceives by the body language of Arjuna that he might be having some doubts, which we'll see in further and as well in the early next chapter, we'll get to that questions. That's why he reminds that who is in the right path by mentioning that one who has faith, Shraddhavan, he's the one who will be able to get that knowledge. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. This is the other verse which we are going to see today. Very often quoted verses. If you just Google and see, there are more than 20 Indian universities and big educational institutions which has this logo. So very common. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. So now we will come to the verses one by one. The first verse 33 of fourth chapter by Srimati Vani Bhaskar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The 33rd verse is Shreyan Dravyamayad Yajna Gnana Yajna Parantapa Sarvam Karmakhilam Partha Gnane Parisamapyate. So if you go to the word meaning, Parantapa is Arjuna, Gnana Yajna is Gnana Yajna, Shreyan is superior, Yajna Dravyamayat to other sacrifice involving materials. Sarvam Karma, every action, Akhilam in its entirety, Parisamapyate is culminates, Gnane is knowledge. So the meaning of this verse is, O Arjuna, Gnana Yajna is superior to other yajnas involving materials. O Arjuna, every action without exception culminates in this knowledge. In the verse 24, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. In this verse, we clearly saw the vision of Brahman or Atman, Samyak Darshana of the nature of Atman. It was explained in the form of a yajna. We clearly understood that Atma is the non-doer and all the karakas, that is the factors related to the action such as the karta, karana, etc., everything as Brahman. To unfold this knowledge, Sri Krishna mentioned different sadhanas which helps the seeker gain a purified mind, that is antakarana shuddhi, so that the knowledge can take place. Sri Krishna called these sadhanas as yajnas, as all these sadhanas involve God and it contributes to our spiritual growth. However, all these spiritual sadhanas are at the level of the body, mind, and intellect. We have to do the sadhanas and ultimately become aware of the body, mind, intellect doing the sadhana, and I, the consciousness of self, is merely a witness to all these sadhanas. All the yajnas can only purify the mind and prepare the mind for self-knowledge. But the ultimate end, the moksha, can only be gained by knowledge and not by any religious disciplines or sadhanas. Shreya and Dravyamayad Yajna, Gnana Yajna Parantapa. So Lord Krishna here says, Gnana Yajna is the greatest compared to all the Dravya Yajnas. So what are the Dravya Yajnas? Dravya Yajnas are all those yajnas which are performed using certain materials and objects. Therefore, they're also called as Karma Yajnas. Krishna has listed many of them in the previous verses, though there are numerous yajnas mentioned in the Vedas. Dravya Yajnas, that is the Karma Yajnas, have Karma Palam. It can give a limited result either in the external, like the material gains, or the internal, like Antakarana Shuddhi, which is definitely useful for gaining self-knowledge. Bhagavan says, Gnana Yajna is superior compared to all the other yajnas. Sarvam Karma Kilam Partha Gnane Parisamapyate. All other sadhanas help us to reach Gnana Sadhana. Gnana Sadhana is more subtler and ultimately leads us to the knowledge. The Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana of the Gnana Yajna help us to gain the self-knowledge. Sadhana of doing is definitely appreciated, but sadhana of knowing is a higher step to be followed because knowledge alone gives us liberation. Gnanat evatu kaivalyam. Gnana alone gives us moksha. Gnanam, that is knowledge, destroys all karmas. That is, karma in its entirety dissolves in knowledge. All the karmas culminates in gnanam. All karma yagnas must lead us to the gnanam, otherwise it is useless. So karma yagna is incomplete without gnana yagna, and gnana yagna is impossible without karma yagna. So when gnanam leads us to the knowledge that I am Purnaha, Aham Brahmasmi, my nature is Satyam, Gnanam, Anantam, all the karmas and everything related to this are totally gone. They've just disappeared without any trace of anything left behind. So all karmas culminates in gnanam. Karmas have limited karma palam, that is, they are finite, they're produced in time, whereas gnana palam is infinite. All finite karma palams are included in this infinite gnana palam. So two reasons why Krishna says Granagna is superior is one is it is direct knowledge of liberation through which everybody has to go through. And the second one is it's the benefit of Gnanam, all the other karma palas are included. Hari Om, thank you, sir.
Verse 34. Srimati Pallavi.
Hari Om. Tat vidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. In the shloka, the meaning of the shloka is, may you gain that knowledge by prostration, by service, and by proper inquiry. The wise sages will impart that knowledge to you. Next slide, please. So first, Krishna points out that Jnana Yajna requires two factors. The scriptures, which deal with knowledge of the self, called Shastra. It will bless you with knowledge only when you know how to operate. Hence, the second factor is called Guruha. Guruha helps you to operate the Shastram properly. And therefore, Arjuna went to a Guru, which is Lord Krishna, who functioned as a teaching Guru. Brahmanishta, the one who has knowledge of the self. Jnaniha Tattvadarshina, which means Guru who knows that he is Brahman and therefore he imparts the knowledge of you are Brahman as well. And Stotriya, the one who has got the skill of communication, which is developed through a Sampardaya, which is nothing but a Parampara, where active understanding, listening, and also reconciling the statements between the teacher and the student's understanding is known as Samanvaya. Because of this method of teaching, Krishna allows Arjuna to ask questions. The teaching is complete only when the student is convinced, and that is why Krishna went chapter after chapter until the end of 18th chapter. After that, Arjuna said, "Hey Krishna, my confusion is gone. I have clearly understood your teaching." Therefore, Guru and Shastram together will help in gaining this knowledge of the self. Now, Krishna, the next slide, please. Now, Krishna emphasizes two qualifications of a student as well, Jignasa and Vinayam. One should have an intense desire for learning this knowledge and should possess humility. Now, humility is an invisible thing. It is a mental character. So, how can we know whether the person is humble or not? Therefore, Shastra says, express your humility by doing namaskara to your Guru. The physical prostration in our tradition symbolizes humility. And the next thing that he has to do is seva. Seva means service to the Guru. The purpose of the service to the Guru is of twofold: purifying the mind. Service to the teacher will remove any impurity from the mind and clears the mind. And the second purpose for any communication is a rapport between the student and the guru. Guru must know the mentality of the disciple, what are his strengths and weaknesses, and so on. So there must be an understanding between the guru and Shishya. All these factors help towards learning the scriptures well. Hari Om.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the previous verses and the verse which I am going to discuss today, Sri Krishna is highlighting the value and importance of the Jnana Yoga. He's already talked about the value and superiority of Jnana Yoga, Yajna, over the other Yajnas, where all the other Yajnas, even if they are performed for material gains, ultimately will lead to or culminate in seeking of the jnana. And the Sanskrit word used for this in the 33rd verse of this chapter is parisamapyate. In the previous verse, Krishna also highlights the importance of how a seeker should approach a guru with prostration and service, and the wise or the sage would impart the knowledge. Coming to the current verse, which is the 35th verse, Krishna tells Arjuna what would be the benefit of obtaining the knowledge or the jnana which he thus is seeking or he wants to obtain. And the verse goes like this: Yat gyatva na punah moham evam yasyasi pandava yen bhutani asheshani drakshyasi atmani atho mayi. Gyatva yat, by gaining that knowledge, na yasyasi, you will not get into moham, delusion in this manner again, punaha. O Arjuna, by that knowledge, you will see, draksyashi, drak means to see, bhutani asheshena, all beings without exception, in me as well as in yourself. After gaining that knowledge, you will not get into any delusions in this manner. Once again, O Arjuna, by that knowledge, you will see all beings without exception in me as well as in yourself. What is the explanation of this verse? So here in this verse, Krishna is enumerating the benefit of obtaining the jnana. And the first benefit is mohanasha. Conflict in the life will end. Emotional attachment makes us unable to face the future, and this is the problem of all human beings, which creates conflict in life. But once you obtain the knowledge, you would be ready to face the future and strength to take decision. Moham na yasyasi. And the second benefit is that you will have Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya Darshanam. You will understand that all the living beings rest in Him, rest in God only, and the whole world lives in Him. But you will also understand the whole world lives in you. In effect, what is he trying to tell? That once you have obtained this knowledge, there is no difference between you and the God of the Almighty. Bhutani mai drakshyasi. You will see all beings in me in the Lord, Atmani pashyasi, and you will see in yourself as well. You will see the entire creation, which is resting in the total self, which is non-different from the individual self, which means that you will come to know that Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. You are no different from that higher consciousness, which the Paraprakriti of Krishna represents. You will become Him only. Hari Om. Thank you very much.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Dr. Sanjay sir has clearly explained in the verse 4.35 and 4.36 regarding the advantages of Jnanapalam. The twofold benefits of Jnanapalam mentioned in 4.35 are Sarvamohanashaha and Sarvatra Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. Sarva Papanashaha is mentioned in verse 4.36. Now let's see about the fourth phalam about which Krishna speaks in the verse 4.37. Yathai samidhodner basmasat kurute Arjuna Jnanagnihi sarvakarmani basmasat kurute tatha. O Arjuna, the fire of knowledge reduces all karmas into ashes, just as a well-kindled fire reduces the fuel to ashes. In this shloka, Lord Krishna is explaining about karma nashanam. This is the fourth palam. In this verse, karma means karma palam. Our shastras talk about three types of karma palams: sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, and agami karma. Sanchita karma means papa and punya karmas which are acquired in the previous janmas. Prarabdha karma is the portion of karma which is matured in the present janma and ready to fructify. Agami karma acquires through present actions. These sins and virtue deeds again segregates into sanchitam and prarabdham as per the severity. These karmas are responsible for Punarapi Jananam and Punarapi Maranam, are samsara cyclic process. Here, Krishna says, for a jnani, due to jnana agni, all karmas are burnt into ashes. Sanchitam get destroyed, agami is avoided, prarabdha is vanquished. Yet, it continues. But how does a jnani go through the prarabdham if it is vanquished? Swamiji says, a jnani remains as an akarta and abhokta. Therefore, the Sanchita Prarabdha and Agami are completely avoided. However, the Prarabdha karma is not destroyed. Swamiji explains the true sense of it using a brilliant example, which is one should wear gloves and insulator while touching electric live wire. The fate is known if not on the gloves. This illustrates that jnana acts like a glove, an insulator, against the deadly old electric samsara wire. A jnani goes through prarabdham, however, he shall place himself in the self, experiencing the tranquility or samatvam, regardless of the circumstances he is posed to. In this shloka, Krishna compares jnanam to a ferocious blazing fire. However, let's understand what the nature of the fire must be in order to burn down the karmas. Krishna says, Agni yadhamsi basmat kurute. In order to burn down the karmas, the Jnana Agni must be Samida Agni. It should be a moksha tapana tivra Jnana Agni. If it is not such a fuming, ferocious fire, then the fire won't be able to burn down the karma palam. Similarly, next slide, sir. A small flame of Jnana Agni is compared to initial phase of one's study of Vedanta, where the student has just started off the Vedanta that's needed to attain moksha. The fire is cute, a newbie, however, not enough to burn down the karmas into palams. But for a jnani who has done Shravana, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam for a length period of time under a competent guru, thereby makes him a fire warrior who can burn down all karmas and its attached fruits by being detached from the karmas and its palams. It's important to note that in previous verse, Krishna says, Sarva Papanashaha. But in this verse, he says, Sarva Karmanashaha. What is the difference? Krishna signifies that Papa Karma will get destroyed in the previous verse. In this verse, Krishna goes one step ahead and says, all Papa and Punyam will get destroyed. As per Vedanta, Papam gives Dukkham immediately like an immediate poison shot, whereas Punyam is a slow poison which leads to Bandham and eventually Dukkham. A Jnani is the one who transcends beyond Papa Punya, Sukha Dukkham, and Dharma Adharma. Hence, moksha is described as Sarva Mohanashaha, Sarva Papanashaha, Sarva Karmanashaha, and finally, Sarvatra
എല്ലായിടത്തും നമ്മുടെ
Jivatma
നമ്പർ
Paramatma
ഗ്രൂപ്പാ.
Aikyam. Therefore, Krishna says that Jnana Agni will destroy Papa Punya karmas and
Shika?
phalams into ashes. Thank you. Hari.
Om. Now coming on to verse 4.38, the verse goes like this. Nahi jnanena saddarsham pavitramiha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhaha kalenatmani vindati. Going by the verse meaning, nahi jnanena saddarsham, nothing as purifying as knowledge, pavitramiha vidyate, there is no other purifier in this world. Tatsvayam yoga samsiddhaha, that knowledge which is prepared through yoga, kalena atmani vindati, one attains in the mind easily in time. Yes, in this world, there is nothing as purifying as divine knowledge. One who has attained purity of mind through prolonged practice of yoga receives such knowledge within the mind and in due course of time. Knowledge has the power to purify, liberate, and unite a person with God. Next. It is supremely sublime and pure, but a distinction needs to be made between two kinds of knowledge. One is theoretical information, the other is practical realization. Theoretical information is acquired by reading the scriptures and hearing from the Guru, and this is sufficient by itself. Only when one practices sadhana in accordance with the theory, it results in purification. So with the previous verse, that is 4.37, Jnana Phalam topic is over. Now, Sarva Moha Nashaha, Aikya Darshanam, Sarva Papa Nashaha, and Sarva Punyasyapi Nashaha. All these are fourfold phalams given in this context. Different other phalams are given in other contexts, in other places also. Next slide. Next slide. Now, Krishna wants to conclude this discourse in the following verses 38 to 42, in which he wants to talk about certain sadhanas, certain do's and don'ts. And in the first line of this verse, Krishna talks about the greatness of the knowledge. Jnanena saddarsham pavitramiha nasti. The purifier which is as great as this divine knowledge. Knowledge is the greatest purifier in the creation. Ganga Snanam, Prayaschita Karma like Maharudram, Athirudram, Nama Japa are all purifiers in their own way. All the other sacred waters can remove certain papam, but they cannot remove Ajnanam, which is the basic impurity. And therefore, there is no purifier equivalent to knowledge. Next slide. In this verse, first sadhana is described, which is yoga or spiritual way of life. A qualified person who has prepared himself for knowledge seed to sprout into a moksha tree to give ananda phalam, before sowing any seed, we have to prepare the land. There should be proper temperature and fertilizer and water. Water must be exactly as it is needed. For different types of crops, different types of conditions are required. Similarly, Ananda Gnana seed to grow, a mind must be prepared. And one who has the prepared mind is called Samsiddha Purushaha. And the method is Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, or in a simple language, a religious life. Veda, as the mother, has decided what is good for us in self-knowledge. And Veda has decided that we have to prepare the mind, and Veda has prescribed a lifestyle meant for spiritual growth. It does not ignore material growth, but keeps in mind spiritual growth of a person. To put it in a Vedantic language, sadhana chatustaya sampannaha or tatvindati. That is, he will attain this knowledge with this. And where we attain this knowledge? Atmani, in the pure mind. Because any knowledge has to take place in mind only, including spiritual knowledge. And how much time it will take? Krishna doesn't want to commit on this. Swamiji says, instead of asking the question, how many kilometers, just enjoy the journey. That is first verse in 4.38. Now going on to the next verse, 4.39. Shraddha Valam Tatparah Samyatendriyah Jnanam Lam Shantim Achirenadhigacchati Labhate Jnanam. One who has faith attains knowledge. Tatparaha Samyatendriyah. One who is devoted, whose sense organs are restrained or controlled. Jnanam labdhva param shantim. Having attained knowledge, attains supreme peace. Achirenadhi gacchati. He will soon attain. So the verse means those whose faith is deep and who have practiced controlling their mind and senses attain divine knowledge. Through such transcendental knowledge, they quickly attain everlasting supreme peace. Having told us, next slide, having told us about the spiritual way of life, second sadhana Krishna has told is Shraddha, the faith. Shraddha is validity of scriptures. Krishna now introduces the concept of faith in the context of knowledge. Not all spiritual truths are immediately perceptible. Some of them can only be experienced having attained sufficient elevation in the path. Faith means firm confidence in the words of Guru and scriptures. It helps us accept what we cannot understand at present. When faith is placed on true Guru, it opens the pathway for eternal welfare. Then the third sadhana given in this shloka is Tatparaha. Tatparaha means to be sincere and committed. Tatparaha means sincerity is required for knowledge to take place. And the fourth sadhana here is Samyatendriyaha, meaning discipline or sensory discipline. And if a person follows all these things, Jnanam Labdva, certainly it will get most wonderful system from the Gita or from the Upanishad. You will get the knowledge and Param Shantim Adhigacchati. And the result of knowledge is Param Shantim, the permanent peace of mind. So there is no posthumous benefit. Krishna promises a benefit here and now, which you can check. Gita will give you peace of mind, and it is a promise. And not ordinary peace of mind, Param Shantim, a peace that passeth all understanding. Next slide. Therefore, our actions and responses are governed by two factors. One is our knowledge, and the other is our vasanas. Knowledge will take care of the part of a problem, but we have to handle our vasanas, our habits also, and the habit changing requires deliberate effort. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Komal sir, and all speakers of the day, Madam Vani Bhaskar, Pallavi, Dr. Sanjay Mehrotra, Radha ma'am, and Dr. Satyanarayana for explaining these important concluding verses of the fourth chapter. Each verse teaches us a life lesson, and these are the highest ideals of this human birth. Let us become Jignasu Bhaktas and have the Vinaya and Shraddha in our everyday pursuit of these goals. Shraddhava Labhate Gnanam. Our gratitude to the grace of God, our Gurus, and today's speakers for this opportunity to understand and assimilate this knowledge. To repeat, Nahi Gnanena Sadrasham Pavitramiha Vidyate. Let us tune in for the 21st session of Kathopanishad at 6:45 p.m. on this coming Friday, the 29th of March 2024. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you.